Hello everyone, welcome to our latest edition of the Cleveland Sports Show. I am your host, Darius Sethna. Thank you so much for joining me for our latest installment of the podcast. Lots to break down today. Logan Purcell will be joining me shortly. We're going to dive deep into Super Bowl 55, give you our analysis. We'll also talk about the NBA, most notably the Cavs, with their West Coast road trip right now not going according to plan for the Cavs, but they still have a few games out there on the West Coast. Logan and I will talk about that. Also, Premier League updates from the soccer league in England will get you caught up with everything that's going on there as well. Ladies and gentlemen, here is our latest installment of the Cleveland Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Darius Sethna of NordoniaHills.News, and the Cleveland Sports Show starts right now. Hello everyone, welcome to our latest edition of the Cleveland Sports Show. I am your host, Darius Sethna, wherever you're listening, on Spotify, NordoniaHills.News, on the Nordonia Hills News YouTube page, or on my Twitter page. Welcome to our latest installment. So happy to have you. Logan Purcell will be joining me in a little bit. We'll talk about Super Bowl 55, the Cavs. It's going to be a lot of fun. First, though, let's get you your sports fact of the day. And I was just mentioning the Cavs. Let's go back to the good old days, shall we, when LeBron James was here. Today is February 13th, 2021. And on this day, 3 years ago, February 13th, 2018, Cleveland Cavaliers were in Oklahoma City for a matchup against the Thunder. This was the second game where LeBron had his new crew of players. Those players include Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, Rodney Hood, George Hill. All new guys from the Cavs after that mega trade that happened in February of 2018. This was their second game together in Oklahoma City, their last game before the All-Star break in 2018. They defeat the Thunder in OKC by a final score of 120-112. LeBron James had one of his most memorable games of the season with 37 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. So he was 2 rebounds, 2 assists shy of that triple-double. However, he did lock in 40 minutes of play, the longest number of minutes any Cavalier played in that game. On the Thunder's side of things, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony combined for 49 points. Steven Adams and Russell Westbrook combined for 43 points, but however, it was just not enough for the Thunder on that night in February. So how about that? Cavs with a big win against OKC this day 3 years ago. 120-112 was the final score, and LeBron James with a masterful performance. It's time for some Premier League talk. Fans, let's get you updated with what's going on with the soccer league in England, the Premier League. It's really like the NFL of England and soccer. Let's get you updated with these stats right now. Overall standings, Manchester City, they are in first place still with 50 points on the season, thanks to 15 wins, 5 draws, and 2 losses. However, we were talking about how it's the 2 Manchester teams who are the top 2 that did hold serve, obviously, for Manchester City. However, Leicester City has taken over as the second seed in the Premier League right now. Leicester City, in 24 matches played, have 14 wins, 4 draws, and 6 losses for 46 total points. A point behind them is Manchester United, who was in second place. They have 13 wins, 6 draws, and 4 losses on the season. Liverpool comes in at 4th place. They have 11 wins, 7 draws, and 6 losses on the season for a total of 40 points. Chelsea come in at 5th place, 11 wins, 6 draws, 6 losses for 39 points. West Ham and Everton round out the 6th and 7th seed for you. West Ham with 39 points, Everton with 37 points to round out our top 7 teams in the Premier League this week. The standings are live right now because we have live games going on. Earlier today, Leicester City defeated Liverpool by the final score of 3-1. Crystal Palace is losing to Burnley right now and will most likely lose that game to Burnley. It is at the 88th minute right now live. Burnley up 3-0 against Crystal Palace. Looks like that game is pretty much in the books. Let's get you updated with what happened this past weekend in the Premier League. Aston Villa defeated Arsenal 1-0. Burnley and Brighton tied 1-1. Newcastle, despite having a player get a red card and get ejected and down an extra man, they defeat Southampton 3-2. West Ham and Fulham tie 0-0. Manchester United and Everton tie 3-3. Tottenham Hotspur defeat West Brom 2-0. Wolves tie Leicester City 0-0. And Manchester City destroy Liverpool 4-1 the score in favor of Manchester City. Final two matches of this past weekend, Chelsea defeated Sheffield United 2-1, and then Leeds United defeated Crystal Palace 2-0. The rest of our matches in the Premier League for this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Manchester City taking on Tottenham Hotspur today, a little bit later. Also today, Brighton going up against Aston Villa. Tomorrow we have a slate of games for you, with Southampton going up against the Wolves, West Brom taking on Manchester United, and Arsenal facing off against Leeds United. Also tomorrow, Everton taking on Fulham. On Monday, on President's Day, we can celebrate our presidents by watching some Premier League soccer. It all starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The action begins with West Ham going up against Sheffield United and then Chelsea going up against Newcastle. And let's get you your stats. The best players of the Premier League, Mohamed Salah, still with 17 goals, still in first place in terms of top goal scoring in the Premier League. He has 17 goals on the season so far, so he has a comfortable 4-point cushion behind Bruno Fernandes, who is tied for second place, also with Calvert-Lewin, Harry Kane, and Son Heung-min. Each of those players with 13 goals on the season tied for second place. And even though Harry Kane is tied for second place on the goals statistics, he still leads the Premier League in assists. It's not by a comfortable margin, though, only by one. Harry Kane of Tottenham Hotspur with 11 assists on the season. Jack Grealish and Kevin De Bruyne are only one assist behind him, each of those two players with 10 assists on the season. Bruno Fernandes comes in at third place in assists, the Manchester United player with 9 assists on the season so far. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our soccer news, our Premier League news. What I'm very excited about seeing is when the MLS is coming back, the Columbus Crew, the defending champions, they're going to have their new arena or stadium in downtown Columbus. We'll get you updated in the coming weeks of what the Premier League what the MLS season is going to look like and what the Crew can expect heading into their season where they are looking to defend their title. But Logan Purcell is going to join me right now to talk about some Cavs basketball and the Super Bowl. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the show now with Logan Purcell joining me. Logan, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day here. We have a lot to talk about, so I'm so glad you can make it. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And here we are, Logan. NFL season has finally concluded. We're going to break down Super Bowl 55 a little later, but let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers right now and some NBA talk, as the Cavs are on a West Coast trip right now, which has not been going to plan so far. Right now, 3 games in this West Coast trip. Cavs are 0-3, have lost them all, and have lost 2 of them quite emphatically. But Cavs, even in their 2 home games against the Bucks, were blown out. The problem is, in those games against the Bucks, Logan, to me, what I saw is kind of that same scenario you had against the Clippers. You know, very competitive first half for the most part, Cavs hanging in tough, but then, second half, it's just a collapse, and it starts with that third quarter. So let's look at those 2 home games against the Bucks, Logan. Do you think it's an effort problem the Cavs had in that second half, or are these better teams just making better adjustments than the Cavs?
Well, to a degree, I do think it is an effort problem, but at the same time, I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. The Cavs struggle to find that guy that comes in at the end of the game and scores the basketball. They don't have that assassin mentality kind of scorer. Sexton showed it.
Right.
He's shown glimpses of it, but glimpses aren't enough to win games against teams like the Bucks,
yeah,
like the Clippers, like the Nets. To find a guy, a consistent, like, I want to go to that extent, kind of like a Kyrie Irving kind of idea.
Right.
Colin Sexton so far just hasn't played well in these past couple of weeks.
And to me, Logan, it seems like Colin Sexton has, we know he's a dynamo going to the basket. Do you want to see him pass the ball a little bit more than he has? Because it really seems like, a lot of when the turnovers happen, he can cause those turnovers. Do you want to see Sexton get a little more in that assist column?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, see, at the end of the day, to be an elite player, unless you are a magician with the ball or you're a sniper, like Curry or Kyrie, for instance,
right?
You've got to be able to be multidimensional. And Colin Sexton, to me, is completely one-dimensional, which makes him relatively easy to stop. And one of the big Garland is all right facilitating-wise, but they don't have a consistent facilitator either.
Well, do you think that's a good... because I think that's why... I think that's kind of what the beauty of what Darius Garland brings to the table, because what I think needs to happen more is, Sexton can work off the ball, and Garland can facilitate that and run point for a little bit. Do you think that's a good idea, or do you want Sexton bringing up the ball and being this, like, the legit point guard of the Cavs?
Well, I think we need the Cavs are going to need a little bit of both. I mean, you think about it, again, I'll relate it back to the Nets once more. It's see Kyrie taking up the ball or just Harden taking up the ball. You'll see all three, Durant, Kyrie, and Harden taking up the ball.
Right.
Again, I know it's not the same thing, but you can't have one guy be the pure dominant ball handler, because second he goes out, let's assume Sexton stays in, you have no ball handler. Sexton doesn't know how to facilitate the ball,
right,
and then the offense is entirely stagnant.
Yeah. Now,
I think it's relatively crucial for Sexton to be able to facilitate the ball to a degree.
Yeah, so Cavs fall to the Bucks last Friday, 123-105, and then to the Bucks the next night at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse as well, 124-99. So an 18-point loss to Milwaukee, and then the next night, 25-point loss to those same Bucks. Logan, let's head on out to the West Coast real quick, where the Cavs are, and their West Coast trip so far. This 5-game West Coast trip. Right now, Cavs are 0-3 after 3 games. It's been a struggle. Now let's go to this first game against the Phoenix Suns out there in the desert. Jared Allen with 14 points. Andre Drummond had 15 points. Colin Sexton, 23 points in 34 minutes. But Cedi Osman, 2 points. Dylan Windler, 5 points. It's just, I'm really not understanding the reason these guys were being inconsistent. Now, they were competitive. This was a competitive matchup, and the Suns were without Chris Paul that night, but Mikal Bridges, to me, Logan, and Devin Booker really were the stars of the show for Phoenix. Bridges with 22 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds, all in 36 minutes, and then Devin Booker is the Devin Booker we know he can be, and I definitely think this is going to be the first time in his career that Devin Booker is going to make the playoffs. So down the stretch, Logan, Cavaliers only lost this one by 6. So what was it that went wrong for the Cavs that caused them to lose this game against the Suns in your eyes?
In my eyes, it's got to be, the issue of, the first-round draft pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Isaac Okoro. I've mentioned it, about how if he doesn't play and defend the number one guy, well, what's the point? It was kind of a useless pick. They clearly didn't draft him for his ability to score the basketball.
Yeah.
He's inconsistent there. And, they drafted him for his lethalness defensively. And yet, Devin Booker was 4 points shy of a 40-point performance.
Right.
And to me, that is just unacceptable. And I understand, the inconsistencies offensively off the bench. Torian Prince leading the way with 13, but I understand entirely the inconsistency. But this Cavs, every team has their identity, and I don't think anybody in Cleveland looks at the Cavs and thinks of a high octane. You're going to have 4 guys scoring 20 plus offensively. They're a very grit and grind defensive minded team, but when they don't perform defensively or they can't stop the number one guy to under 30 points, they're just not going to win games.
And, to me, they also just don't have that pure facilitator. Even without Chris Paul, the Suns still were able to, get the job done. They didn't have Jay Crowder either, but it just seems to me that the Suns have a chip on their shoulder as well coming into the season. They won all their 8 games in the bubble last year, we know, Logan, and they still weren't able to make the playoffs. So I think also, Phoenix just in general, they want to make some noise because the Suns really, let's be honest, haven't been relevant since Steve Nash was there and Amari Stoudemire were there. So I think you have that chip on the shoulder as well. And the Suns have more veterans. You're talking about Devin Booker, each one more. DeAndre Ayton is not a veteran, but he's coming out. Same with Mikal Bridges. He's coming out and really, showcasing his talents. And this guy, Javon Carter, I like this guy for the Suns. A backup point guard. Didn't have a stellar game against the Cavs. Only 3 points, 2 assists in 19 minutes. But to me, it just seems like he's a steady point guard, and he really does a good job just making sure everyone's calm out there on the court and having good control of the game. Logan, your thoughts on the Suns. Where do you kind of see them? Where do you see Phoenix being in terms of a playoff spot this year?
When it comes to the playoffs, when I look at the Suns, I see kind of similar to what I look at in the Bucks. I see a team that has, a very talented all-star. They have a very good second guy and a bunch of okay role players, right? I mean, you got a guy like Devin Booker. That's their A guy, clearly.
Right.
Chris Paul's a really solid number 2. But when you go off of that, John Ratings had a great year, but I would never call him a number 2 guy on a playoff championship contending team. So to me, I look at them kind of like the Bucks. I see them maybe coming in at a 5 or 6 seed at the end of the day. I know they've had a great start to the season, but I mean, you're talking about, it seems like for the first time in a while, both the East and the Western conferences are absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
Top heavy. And
right.
To me, I don't see them being more than a top, maybe 5 or 6 seed.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you on that one. I definitely think they're going to need a couple more pieces, but I like the way they're playing right now. It looks like Monty Williams really has this team locked in, especially on the offensive side of the ball when you have Chris Paul. Let's move on to the Cavs' next game, Logan, and ladies and gentlemen, Logan Purcell, Nordonia freshman, joining me for this week's edition of the Cleveland Sports Show. Let's move on, Logan, to the Cavs game against the Nuggets, where, this was the complete opposite, non-competitive from the start. The Cavs were down by 21 at the half. It was just, I don't know if it was the altitude maybe, because the Cavs were in Denver taking on the Nuggets, and I guess maybe they had too many Nuggets before the game because they just did not. They looked very out of sync in this one from the start. Nuggets doubled up on the Cavs after one quarter. 34-17 was the score, and the Cavs were outscored in every quarter in this game by Denver. Outscored by 13 in the third quarter. Outscored by 4 in the fourth quarter. Isaac Okoro only 10 points and 2 assists. Jared Allen was the high leading man for the Cavs on Wednesday night against the Nuggets. He had 18 points and 10 rebounds for that double-double. On Denver's side of things, Michael Porter Jr., strong showing with 19 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Paul Millsap, 22 points, leading scorer for the Nuggets on Wednesday night. Millsap also with 3 assists, 4 rebounds, all in 27 minutes. Nikola Jokic didn't have to do anything special, only 12 points, 12 assists for him. Jamal Murray, only 8 points, Logan. I think this is something kind of a discussion point. Jamal Murray, only 8 points. And we saw Jamal Murray, he was probably easily one of the top 5 best players in the bubble last season down in Orlando. What do you think's going on with Jamal Murray this season so far?
Well, one of the things they talked about in the bubble was the difference of the way that the hoop looked. Compared to being in an NBA arena, when the wall is closer to the back of the backboard, your perception of how close the hoop is to you is a bit different. And when you look at Jamal Murray, don't get me wrong, athletic point that we have in the league right now, but I look at him more primarily as a shooter. He's a guy that will shoot over you, he'll shoot around you, he'll find a way to get open shots, and one of the things he hasn't taken many shots either. You see, he only had 8 points, but he also only took 6 shots.
Right.
It's not like he got, 1 for 10 and, a bunch of free throws. He only took 6 shots. So I think one of the things that he's got to do is, almost, get a little bit more shots up. I know they won the game a lot, but get more shots up, figure out a way to get more open shots. And I think that's that's one of the things that he's got to work on is having more confidence in himself and just getting to the rack.
Before we talk about the Cavs' performance in this game, Logan, I want to get your thoughts on the Nuggets. We obviously saw they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals last year, lost to the Lakers in 5 games as the Lakers went on to win the championship last year. I'll ask you the same question I did about the Suns. Where do you see Denver? Can they regain and recover from from kind of the struggles Jamal Murray has had, and can they rekindle that fire they were able to find in the bubble? Can they use that in the playoffs this year, or do you just see the Western Conference being too stacked?
No, I definitely think that, if I had my rankings, I've got clearly Lakers are number 1, not standings-wise, but Lakers are number 1. You got the Clippers at 2, and I think the Nuggets are 3 right now, and I think that you have to put them, despite the Jazz hot start, I think you've got to put them over them because I would never put Donovan Mitchell's had a great start to the year, but I would never put him in the same sentence as Nikola Jokic.
Right. Yeah.
Or, and again, Gobert's a great second guy, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, Gobert doesn't perform like we've seen Jamal Murray perform.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that out of all the teams, minus the Lakers, I think the Lakers are a clear favorite over the Clippers, but out of all the teams, I think once again, the Nuggets are the best team that have the best chance to beat the Clippers in a 7-game series come playoff time.
And it's going to be interesting to see, can the Nuggets do it again? Can they pull off that, another upset? Because they're definitely going to be underdogs in a playoff series sometime down the road when the playoffs start. So it'll be interesting to see will Nikola Jokic and everyone be able to recapture that form that they had in the bubble last year. Let's go to the Cavs' performance in this game. Obviously, they lost 133-95. If we look at the box score here, Logan, as I mentioned, Jared Allen, leading scorer of the Cavs, 18 points, 10 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Gets confusing a little bit, my bad. Andre Drummond, though, only 4 points. I know he's going up against Nikola Jokic, and Sexton, only 4 points. And it's not like Sexton got hurt. Sexton played 29 minutes. That's like the normal amount he plays around there, and he only had 4 points. Darius Garland, only 7 points. I mean, I think my starting backcourt with my NYB team can score more points in a game than that, and that's just not what we're used to seeing from Sexton and Garland. What were your thoughts on this Cavs performance? Because I really feel like this one was definitely an effort problem. If the one against the games against the Bucks were an effort problems, this one certainly Wednesday night was an effort problem because they just never locked in this game.
Yeah, I'll start with Andre Drummond. You mentioned him playing against Nikola Jokic. My argument to that would be no one who's ever watched the NBA will ever tell you that Nikola Jokic is a defensive issue. I mean, I promise you, no one looks at Nikola Jokic like they look at a Rudy Gobert or a Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's not getting 4 blocks a game.
Yeah.
He's not, of course he's 7 foot, so of course he's going to be a factor defensively, but, it's not like, Andre Drummond's averaging over 15 points a game with, 15 rebounds. So
right.
At the end of the day, Andre Drummond should be scoring more than 4 points, and it's not like the same situation where he only took, he shot 3 of 6 like Jamal Murray. He shot 2 of 7.
Yeah.
So, he's shooting pretty far under 50%. And to me, that's just kind of a pathetic performance from Drummond. And to be honest with you, there's just kind of no excuse for that. And then probably even bigger than that for me is the rebound factor. He only had 6 rebounds.
Yes.
Which is not even half of what he averages. And then, moving on to Sexton, I understand you're playing against Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray's a dog defensively. I mean, I think he's one of the most underrated guard defenders in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely.
You shoot 1 of 9 from the field, and your plus-minus was a minus 27 on the court.
Yeah.
To me, that is just unacceptable, and, I completely take back any remarks I made about Colin Sexton continuing, maybe to show being an A-plus player, because right now, he can't. That performance wasn't even a C-level player. And
to me, Logan, also, we were mentioning Drummond, 7 shot attempts, Sexton, 9 attempts, so they only combined for 16 shot attempts. To me, that also seems like a lack of aggression, maybe even a lack of energy. Do you agree with that, Logan, that they need to if, let's say Colin Sexton, took 30 shots and, missed a few free throws, all that kind of stuff, only finished the game with maybe like 6 points, okay? But he took those 30 shots. we would criticize him for only those 6 points, but okay, you took 30 shots, so you were locked in, you were aggressive. You can't say that about this game. Was that something you kind of used when you do your analysis of these games as well, that aggression factor and the amounts of shots that a player takes, Logan?
Yeah. I think when it comes to the criticism, at the end of the day, someone could score 40 points. Bradley Beal can score 40 points in a game, but if he loses, we're going to criticize him for losing and not being able to lead his team to the victory. So,
right.
The same scenario as you mentioned, Colin Sexton takes 30 shots and scores 6 points, or if he scores 20, we're going to say that, it took you 30 shots to score 20 points. So to me, that's what separates the great players from the good players. A guy like, for instance, Kevin Durant, right? If he's cold, if he's, 2 for 10 to start, he'll end up with 30 shots.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't care. He understands that at the end of the day, any team that he's on, he's their best chance to score the basketball every possession down the floor. And to me, it's the same situation with Cleveland. I can't honestly say that there's any scorer that's even close to Colin Sexton in Cleveland. Because to me, there isn't. I mean, Andre Drummond can score, but he's not Colin Sexton.
I think Garland can
shoot, but he's not Colin Sexton.
Right.
So to me, Colin Sexton's the best opportunity to score. And I mean, clearly, if you're not shooting more than, at least 10 or 11 shots a game as that number one guy, regardless of how you start, then you don't want the ball in your hand.
And to me, one name I think you forgot to mention, and it's not your fault, Logan, because he's really not been a factor these last few games, is Cedi Osman. Cedi Osman, when this guy is locked in offensively, he's very hard to stop. He's a streaky shooter. He can put the ball on the deck and go to the basket. So what's going on with Cedi Osman right now? Is it the hair? Is it the headband? What's going on here?
I think, personally, I'm not one that really believed in Cedi Osman coming into the league a couple of years ago, but he did have a good start to the season. He played all right for the first couple games.
Right.
I think that he stopped his streak. He was streaking a little bit. He had a great couple weeks where, he got 20 in back-to-back games a couple weeks ago, and I think he kind of cooled off. And I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that J.B. Bickerstaff has kind of leaned more on Colin Sexton, and now it's become a little bit more of the Colin Sexton show than the real Cavs game. Right. So I think definitely Cedi Osman's gotten a cold streak a little bit.
So let's move on to from that 133-95 blowout loss the Cavaliers suffered, and move on to their most recent game that took place last night. That 10 o'clock start. So I would completely understand if some of you guys fell asleep during the Cavs game, because it did take place late. And the Cavs, I wouldn't be surprised if some of you turned off your TVs at halftime, because the Cavs once again just came out of the gate slow. They got some offensive rhythm in the first half against the Portland Trailblazers at the Moda Center in Portland, but it was just not enough. And what I saw, Logan, watching this game and watching the first quarter, is the Cavs just kept fouling and fouling and fouling and fouling, and it ended up with Enes Kanter looked like Patrick Ewing out there, honestly. 21 points, 13 rebounds in 27 minutes, finished with a double-double. Damian Lillard didn't have to do anything special either. 20 points, 9 assists, 3 rebounds. This is kind of something we've seen over and over in these West Coast games, Logan. The star players of the teams the Cavs are facing aren't going out there and having to drop, 40, 50 points, not even 30 points. Damian Lillard, we know this is a guy who can average 30 in his sleep, and he didn't even, need that. 30 minutes of play for literally only 20 points, as I mentioned. But, as I mentioned, Cavs had some offensive rhythm in the first quarter, but second quarter they conceded 39 points, and the Blazers just never looked back on this one. So, Logan, overall thoughts on this game. Isaac Okoro did not score at all in 27 minutes. Taurean Prince only 4 points. Sexton and Garland had better games. Sexton had 25 points in 41 minutes. 17 points, 4 assists for Garland in 33 minutes. So this was a little bit of a better performance. Cedi Osman, 0 points. What did you see from the Cavs in this game?
I know a lot of Cleveland fans are going to hate me for this, but see on from Andre Drummond.
Could you repeat that again, Logan? Sorry, we had you cut out a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, but I think it's time to move on from Andre Drummond.
Okay.
I think that, at the end of the day, he's got a huge contract on the books. You're losing time giving a 23-year-old Jared Allen, who, mind you, had 22 points in that, shooting 7 of 12.
Yeah.
I think it's time to move on. I think it's time to move Andre Drummond, get some value back. With the Cavs team, the way that they've played on this series, or this little trip, they haven't. If they play like anything like this, they're done in 4 games, assuming they make the playoffs at all.
Oh, I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs, and I think their playoff hopes are pretty much gone now. I mean, they're 10-17. They're 10-17 now, and we talked about the East being stacked. I don't know about you, Logan. I'll let you continue on, but I'm just thinking. I think playoff hopes are pretty much over at this point for the Cavs.
Yeah, and I think that the Cavs 2 big time moves before this trade deadline comes up, and that they got to get Kevin Love's contract off the books. Over $28 million a year is unbelievable. They have no flexibility, none.
Yeah.
And then Andre Drummond, he's played well this year, but I can't right now. He's too much money to pay on a team where he's not going to even compete.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think they've got to move these guys. It's time to wrap it up and start blowing it. And I'm not going to say blow it up, per se. I don't want, them to start getting rid of Sexton and Garland.
Oh, no. That's the future of the Cavs right there.
Exactly. But it's time to move on from Drummond and Kevin Love. They got to find somebody. Even if it's for just a small cap dump, they got to do something, because this is just getting out of hand.
Yeah, and I've been on the record saying this. I mean, and you've heard me say, we talked about this as well at the beginning of the year, Logan. I thought that the Cavs needed to trade. They needed to trade Kevin Love to the Clippers and get back Marcus Morris, because, yes, Marcus Morris isn't, young or anything, but he instills that toughness. He's a great veteran leader. He doesn't miss games, because of a toe injury. Let's be quite honest here. I understand. Yes, Kevin Love is a great basketball player when he's on, but he's just not playing. He's not even he's not even on the court. He's not traveling with the team. And I guess we could understand now with COVID protocols. But I've been saying this since January. It's time for the Cavs to move on from Kevin Love. Give Kevin Love an opportunity, maybe to have a chance to win something before he retires, because Kevin Love is only getting older, and kind of get this team to be a little younger. And this was just a really tough game, a tough pill to swallow last night. But let's go on Portland's side of things for a quick minute here, Logan. As I mentioned, Damian Lillard only had 20 points, but it really was the Enes Kanter show if you think about it. Carmelo Anthony has been playing really well these last few games for the Blazers. I'll ask you this again. In the Western Conference, Logan, where do you see Portland? Right now they're 15-10, 15 wins, 10 losses. What do you see them doing? Do you see them moving past the first round?
It depends on who they play and where they come in. I mean, right now, you're talking about a 5th seed. And right now they're playing Phoenix in the first round. I would personally take Portland over Phoenix.
Yeah, me too.
I would take them in 5 or 6 games, probably 5 in my opinion. I know that sounds kind of, inaccurate, but to me, I just don't see Damian Lillard going to more than 5 games against an unproven Phoenix team.
Right.
But I believe personally that they will move up to 4, and you're gonna see. I think you'll see. Portland stay at 5, and Utah move back. Utah is not going to keep this hot streak. I think they've gotten a little bit, in their own heads, and they've gotten a little hot, I'll call it. But I think Portland will end up playing a team like Denver or a Utah in the first round, and if that's the case, I don't see them making it out of the first round, because the top 4 teams for the West are just insane. And if the Lakers weren't 5 ticks above everybody else, any of those top 4 teams are contenders.
Yep, exactly.
Go to the finals. Because I mean, you look at this. I'm not going to rule out the fact that maybe a team like Portland plays the Lakers in the first round and takes them out. It's not impossible, I mean, if series or Anthony Davis has a bad series, someone gets hurt, anybody can win it.
Yeah, and you were talking about Anthony Davis has had some injury concerns a little bit. LeBron's really been carrying the Lakers right now, so I would love to see Anthony Davis kind of be a little bit more consistent in terms of being ready to go on the court. But I think it's gonna work out fine for the Lakers. But LeBron's really been the star of the show in Los Angeles right now. But, Logan, I know you were continuing about your Western Conference predictions. Where do you see Damian Lillard really being able to get the Blazers to that higher seed?
And that is mainly because of the inconsistency health-wise of guys like C.J. McCollum and, Gary Trent has had a good couple games.
Right.
But, clearly he's not anything much to, wince about. He's just not that great of a player. They've got their deeper team, but, you look at the top of the West, it's a lot of size. Utah's got Gobert. You've got the Lakers with Anthony.
Right.
A bunch of, really good, solid wings. The Portland Trailblazers, to me, are the most backcourt-built team in the NBA right now. C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard are the core.
Right.
And they don't have much size. Enes Kanter had a great game, but it was just the inefficiency of Andre Drummond to me that really let him step up. He hasn't had an over the insane year, but to me, I just don't see them making it out because of the lack of size.
Yeah, and I'm going to be interested to see what Damian Lillard does. There was a point in the bubble last year where we were saying he was the best player in the bubble, because he certainly was. He was scoring left and right, looked phenomenal. Let's get you updated with the Cavs' upcoming schedule, ladies and gentlemen. As we mentioned, Cavs have had a tough streak so far, going on 3-game losing streak out on the West Coast so far. They'll be in Los Angeles tomorrow with a matchup against the Clippers at the Staples Center. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George and company will be awaiting Colin Sexton and the crew. That game will be tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time from Los Angeles, California. Cavs will then head north in Northern California, in the Bay Area, in San Francisco for a matchup with the Golden State Warriors. That'll also be at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Monday, February 15th. That'll be the Cavs' final game of this West Coast road trip. Cavs will return to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for a matchup with the San Antonio Spurs on Wednesday, February 17th at 8 p.m. The Cavs will then have quite a long amount of time off on their next game. After that game against the Spurs Wednesday will be next Sunday, February 21st, as they will host the Oklahoma City Thunder. To conclude this West Coast trip for the Cavs, Logan, what do you want to see? I know they're going to be playing some tough teams. They've got the Clippers and the Warriors, but what do you want to see from the Cavs as they conclude their West Coast road trip?
I'm not as interested in the Cavs' performance anymore. It was a little bit interesting to watch them play because you saw them maybe as an 8 seed coming in,
right.
Give them a chance to give a team like Brooklyn or a Sixer team a run for their money. Unlikely, but possible. But now I'm very much player based. I want to see Jared Allen step up and play well because I'm a believer in the fact that if Jared Allen comes up in the next 4 or 5 games and averages over 15 and 10, I think that's the finishing touches that the Cavs need to, finally start shopping Andre Drummond and making some moves.
And it's going to be I'm going to be very intrigued to see, can Andre Drummond bounce back? Because they're going to be going up against, Serge Ibaka. I'm unsure if James Wiseman is going to be back for the Warriors, but that's certainly, a tough task to handle when it comes to all the shooting that they have. So, going to be super excited to see how the Cavs really can perform against, these upper echelon teams of the Western Conference. And Logan, that concludes our NBA news for this week. As I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, Logan Purcell joining me, Nordonia freshman, here at the Cleveland Sports Show, another week, and another Super Bowl to get under our, that we have seen, Logan, and another Super Bowl with Tom Brady in it, and guess what? Another Super Bowl that Tom Brady has won. Our predictions were correct, Logan, for Super Bowl 55 in the NFL. Tampa Bay Buccaneers destroy the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9, a 22-point victory for Tampa Bay. Kansas City went up 3-0 with a field goal early in the first quarter, but from then on it was just Tampa Bay putting on a show. Tom Brady, I think we can call him the GOAT for sure. 21 for 29, 201 yards, threw for 201 yards, 3 touchdowns as well. Tom Brady, more Super Bowl appearances than any other team, and also 7 rings, more than any player in NFL history. Logan, there are so many pieces to dissect from this game. We can go to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs not having, that offensive line, those offensive line struggles. And what was your biggest takeaway from Super Bowl 55?
I've been one of the people saying, Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. There is no doubt about it. But I've been one of those people, everybody has been jumping on the Mahomes bandwagon.
Yep.
He's going to be the next great Tom Brady, the next greatest of all time, the next dude to win 5 rings. But in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes has benefited very, very heavily from one of the greatest, fastest receivers to ever touch an NFL field and the best hands in the NFL at tight end, Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And to me, I think finally we're going to see people truly understanding that maybe, just maybe, we might see a little bit of some downfall of Patrick Mahomes, and I think we're going to stop seeing the bandwagoning coming from so many people of this great quarterback.
Well, I think he's still young, though, Logan. So, I mean, can we really say downfall? Maybe he'll have a chip on his shoulder, and I think we'll see maybe like a resurgence, but I think he's still young, so I wouldn't say downfall. What are your thoughts on that? I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and what I mean more downfall-wise is by popularity.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, when it comes to downfall, I speak more of popularity. We watch, if you've seen any of those debate shows about, the NFL, Patrick Mahomes is that guy, and I understand entirely, but at the same time, he's got the greatest offensive-minded head coach in the NFL. But I think teams are finally going to start taking out the Chiefs because now they know how to stop their number one option, and that's Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
You can, hype up Travis Kelce, you can hype up Patrick Mahomes, but at the end of the day, if you know how to slow down Tyreek Hill, you know how to stop the Kansas City Chiefs.
And let's stay in the AFC real quick here, Logan. We'll get to the Buccaneers side of things since they obviously won the Super Bowl. But you were talking about how the AFC is, going to get competitive. Who do you think, in your eyes, in the AFC, Logan, has the best chance to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs?
This upcoming season, this is me making a very general statement. I think that there's 2 teams that have the possibility because I think that they're very evenly matched between the two. And I think that number 1 has to be the Buffalo Bills. I mean, Josh Allen played out of his mind this season. I mean, he was easily a top 5, if not top 3 quarterback this season. Having a great year with, in my opinion, to be the best receiver playing so far this year with Stephon Diggs. If they can make a couple moves defensively, I think that this could be a team that could be heading to a Super Bowl in the AFC next year. And believe it or not, the other team that I think has the best chance to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs next year is the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And my belief behind that is to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, we know that you need a couple of things. Number 1, you need defense. You clearly need the secondary. You need the defensive mind. And that's one of the issues that I think the Browns struggled with in the AFC divisional game this past season. But I think if they add that extra secondary, they replace Sendejo, and they get that safety to help in secondary so they can double cover Tyreek Hill, they've got the chance because they've got the other factor, which is being able to run the football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had over 150 yards rushing, and that was, in my opinion, the biggest factor in the Super Bowl.
And, I mean, we were talking, Browns offensively don't have any struggles. It was those defensive issues we were mentioning, Logan. They also have a coach that's going to really build this team, has done a phenomenal job working with this team since day one, and Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski, Logan, is definitely very deserving of this award. And I was very surprised with, because when the Browns said they were hiring Kevin Stefanski, let's be honest, not a lot of us knew who he was. We knew he had ties with Minnesota, but we really didn't know what he really was about when he took this head coaching position. Do you think that, what are your thoughts overall, I think, is better to ask you, Logan, on Kevin Stefanski's coaching, since he got Coach of the Year?
I think Kevin Stefanski did a tremendous job with this team, and Baker Mayfield especially. I mean, you look at Baker Mayfield's numbers from Week 7 on, and he just had a fantastic year. You saw a guy like Freddie Kitchens come in. He played all right for the first few games, and then he struggled. He threw almost as many picks as he did touchdowns. Right. And, it kind of didn't work out. It wasn't the same as Freddie Kitchens being an offensive coordinator, but Kevin Stefanski came into Cleveland and turned an 8-7-1 team right back into a a winning team at the end of the day. This team made the divisional and almost took out the Kansas City Chiefs, one possession away from winning from heading to the AFC Conference Championship game. And to me, I just think he did an absolutely tremendous job, and kudos to him. He's hands down, he had to be Coach of the Year.
Yeah, he certainly did a phenomenal job this year in Cleveland. Logan, let's go to the Buccaneers side of things. Tampa Bay winning the Super Bowl this year, 31-9 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. Tom Brady, I mean, we both picked the Buccaneers, and I think that's because you just can't bet against this guy. Tom Brady, 21 for 29, 201 yards is what he threw for with those 3 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette with a touchdown. Rob Gronkowski with 2 touchdowns. Antonio Brown with a touchdown as well. This was just a complete performance from the Buccaneers, and what really stood out to me, Logan, was their defensive effort. And when we talk about Kansas City, we're talking about one of the most potent offenses in the entire NFL, and Buccaneers held them to only 9 points. So what were your thoughts on Tampa Bay's performance and Tom Brady?
I completely agree with you defensively, and I mean, I think everybody that watched that game has tipped their hat to Todd Bowles and a tremendous job that he did. He put 2 guys. He had the courage and the audacity to put 2 guys on Tyreek Hill and still find a way to cover Travis Kelce, despite him having all of those 133 yards on 10 receptions. None of them made a difference.
Yeah.
Kansas City didn't so much as put a touchdown on the board, and that is tip of the hat to Todd Bowles and the tremendous job that he did in that game, because, I mean, I think without the double coverage of Tyreek Hill using Antoine Winfield and Carlton Davis, the 2 best secondary guys, in my belief, on that Buccaneers defense, they don't win that game, not by a landslide. So definitely the biggest factor of that game, Tom, despite the great game that Leonard Fournette had, the great game Gronk had, the great game Brady had, it's got to go to the defense. If I had to pick my MVP, it's the entire defense and Todd Bowles.
And this really was, when you talk about defensive effort, you hit it right on the money, Logan. Terrific performance from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That concludes the NFL season, Logan. Overall, what were your thoughts on this, how the NFL handled this season with COVID protocols, and how would you wrap up this NFL season? What were your overall thoughts on it?
I think at the end of the day, they did a fantastic job. I mean, I don't think anybody going into the season, when they announced that they were going to have a season minus the preseason, thought that they would even make it to week 9, halfway through the season, much less a Super Bowl.
Right.
And being able to crown a champion. And, I personally, if I had to guess, with COVID and them finishing, if I had to guess, I definitely wouldn't have guessed the Bucs and the Chiefs, because to me, that was my pick. That was one of my picks for the Super Bowl at the end of the season, was the Chiefs and the Bucs or the Packers. Those were my picks, because I think that they got it right on the money. I don't think any team was too underhanded by COVID-19 protocols. I think all the teams that played had a fair shot, and I think they all got relatively healthy despite COVID-19 protocols. So just like Todd Bowles, you got to tip your hat to the NFL and the fantastic job they did.
Absolutely. One last point of topic for today's podcast, Logan. Cleveland Browns have their schedule, not the dates and times still to be determined, but the opponents are out, Logan. Let's talk about that for a couple minutes here. Obviously, the division, the AFC North division opponents, the Browns will be playing here in Cleveland and on the road, the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Steelers. But the Browns also will be having games against Denver, Las Vegas, Chicago, Detroit, Houston. You got some great teams: Green Bay, Kansas City. They'll be playing the Chargers as well in Inglewood, California. They'll be taking on the Vikings and the Patriots. So, Logan, I know it's very, very early, and we still have an off season to get through. But what are your thoughts on these opponents that the Browns have?
I think that it's going to be a good battle, because I'm excited to see them play the Kansas City Chiefs, because it'll give them a gauge as to where they are.
Right.
It'll give them a gauge how they look in that AFC, and it'll give them a matchup to see how that defense is going to play against a guy like Patrick Mahomes. As I've mentioned before, a great quarterback, but I think popularity-wise, he's on a downfall. And, they're going to have another chance to play against a team that I think needs to make a move to improve that offense and give Aaron Rodgers some weapons. But I think the Green Bay Packers are going to be another great gauge for them. Other than that, though, I see a lot of very winnable games.
Yeah, me as well.
You see the Broncos. They had a college wide receiver come play quarterback this year.
Yeah.
So that's a winnable game. The Raiders are the only team that truly beat the Chiefs in the regular season. The Chargers did it in Week 17, but Mahomes didn't play, clearly.
Right.
But to me, the Oakland Raiders are a winnable game. You've got the Bears, who have the best defense minus the Rams. You got the Detroit Lions, who have Jared Goff now at quarterback. I think you've got a lot of winnable games coming up for the Browns. So, personally, I think they'll beat the Ravens once. They'll beat the Bengals twice. They'll beat the Steelers twice. You've got already, 5 or 6 wins on the board right there.
Yeah. I
see a lot of winnable games. So I see a lot of chances for the Browns to walk away at maybe the top seed in the AFC North.
Yeah, that'll certainly be, and I was talking with a friend at lunch this week, and we were saying, it's really, in my opinion, it's really going to be the Ravens and the Browns who are going to be competing for that AFC title. Bengals still have some work to do, and I think the Steelers, it might be rebuilding time, so we'll see what they do. However, that also concludes our episode today of the Cleveland Sports Show. Logan, thank you so much for your time and spending some of your Saturday morning talking with me about Cleveland sports. It's been such a great pleasure having you on the show. Really appreciate your analysis with the Cavs, the NBA, and all of your Super Bowl NFL breakdown. We'll see you for our next episode. Thank you so much, Logan.
Thank you. See you next week.
Yep, for sure. And, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard me getting off the phone with Logan Purcell, which means that our show has concluded this week for the podcast. But you're probably wondering, Darius, I loved that podcast so much. Why are you taking it away from me? Please don't do this to me. Well, guess what? You have more Cleveland Sports Show episodes on NordoniaHills.News if you'd like to listen to them. As I mentioned, on NordoniaHills.News, go to the Contributors tab and click my name. My name is Darius Sethna. It's spelled Darayussethna. Once you click on my name, you'll be able to access all of my episodes to the Cleveland Sports Show. You'll also be able to check out my broadcast of Nordonia Hills basketball. Had a wonderful halftime ceremony, little tribute for me last night. It was my last game. Very special thanks to Mr. Faust of Nordonia Hills Schools and the high school for announcing such a fantastic tribute. That was really an amazing surprise. So once again, thank you to Mrs. Julie D'Aloiso for getting all of that organized. You'll be able to see basketball broadcasts, as I mentioned, as well as some articles I've been writing these last few months about the Cavs, and I did some player bios over the summer as well. Additionally, you can find the Cleveland Sports Show on Spotify on the go. And you just type in my name. It's spelled Darayussethna. From there, you'll be able to access all my episodes to the Cleveland Sports Show. The Cleveland Sports Show is also on the Nordonia Hills News YouTube page. Very happy to announce that we have another source for you to watch or listen to the Cleveland Sports Show. And finally, make sure you check out my Twitter account. @Nordonia Sports is my Twitter handle. I post all of my work on there as well, all the Cleveland Sports Show episodes, the basketball broadcasts, and any other links you may need that will take you to my work. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our episode this week of the Cleveland Sports Show. Thank you so much for joining me and taking some time out of your day to hear the latest of what Cleveland Sports has to offer. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. We will see you for our next episode. Take care.